Hello, my name is Area Gloria, and this will be a video on Loft bombing with the Mi-24P. I've been loving DCS since 2018, but eventually fell for the Mi-24. Along the way, I found some great materials for videos on the Mi-8 and Mi-24 systems. However, to get started, I wanted to start with something a little more simple that doesn't have a video for it yet. Like you see here, rocket and gun attacks are my bread and butter. But isn't it really cool to fly a helicopter that could carry the bomb load equal to some World War II bombers? One of the things that is always fun to learn, the Mi-24 or even Mi-8, is what is their bombing ability? It's a curious feature compared to Western helicopters like the Huey or Cobra. And the Soviets did use this ability in the Afghanistan war. Some pilots were said to have become extremely accurate at putting bombs directly at the base of buildings, and export customers have used it, whether adhering to Geneva Conventions or not. Most of the Mi-24s around are V or D models, which have an automatic bombing system. However, in DCS, we just have the glorious 30mm gun P model, where bombing is done the old-fashioned way, with tables, pipper depression, and timers. YouTuber BattleDog made a great video of level bombing from the operator seat. But because the pilot view doesn't go very far down, the only way that I can drop bombs as a pilot in DCS, I find, is by using 6 to 7 degree pipper depression while flying 280 to 300 kilometers per hour at 100 meters altitude. Flying at extremely low altitudes isn't very practical in DCS because we have access to only the instant bomb fuse, unlike some of the delay fuses the Soviets used that allowed Mi-24 crews to accurately drop bombs down low, then fly away for the bomb to explode minutes later. Maybe one day, Eagle Dynamics, maybe one day. In fact, this was also used to some degree in Afghanistan. According to Yefim Gordon's book, Mi-24 Attack Helicopter, quote, in an attempt to hide from Soviet air raids, the Mujahideen began setting up shelters and AAA artillery positions behind rocky outcrops. Still, the Hinds would get them there, using the lob bombing technique, end quote. For loft bombing, I found the information and numbers to do this from a document on Mi-24 weapons. However, I adjusted the numbers and made my own table to make it work better in DCS. While these numbers should be very close, they are not exact. Try them out for yourself and see how you do, and adjust them as necessary. Part 2. Technique. Bomb ballistics are determined by something called characteristic time. This is how long it takes a bomb to fall from 2,000 meters released at 144 kilometers an hour. You don't need to worry about this much, because for all FAB and RBK bombs, this is around 21 seconds. RBK bombs will be a little closer to 22 seconds, and thus often fall a little shorter and need more pipper depression. Characteristic time only really differs for KMGU submunitions, for which it's 25 seconds. Step 1. Find your correct chart by picking your indicated airspeed and loft angle. Let's choose 280 kilometers per hour and 20 degrees here. Step 3. Find the needed pipper depression by following where the row for your altitude intersects with your ground speed. You can see your ground speed by looking at the Doppler drift angle and ground speed meter. By choosing the speed closest to your ground speed rather than just using indicated airspeed, it allows you to compensate for a head or tail wind. Since it has 20 km per hour increments, sometimes if you end up in the middle, you just need to choose what's closest. Step 3.5, this is optional. For left or right to wind, you can compensate with this table using the drift meter as well. For say 4 degrees drift at 280 kilometers per hour, I need to move the pipper in the same direction the drift needle points, about 15 mils. Easily done with the ASP17V handle, but you'll have to manually do it on the PKV site for the Mi-8. You don't need to be too exact with the pipper angle. I believe being accurate with speed, loft angle, and altitude is way more important than getting the exact right pipper depression. When joining the toss, you do not need to worry about range. If you have the correct pipper depression and altitude, your range will be right. It is shown on the table merely for reference. Step 4. After inputting the correct pipper depression or finding correct mil markings, maintain the selected altitude and speed. Then right when the pipper covers the target or just before, pitch up around 1.4 to 1.5 G and fire at your chosen loft angle. As a tip, so I can be more precise in my pitch up and bomb release, I often try to start my pitch up right before the target passes the top of the floating reticle rather than the center. This way, I can take more time with the pitch up. You can also set your radar altitude alert to your assigned altitude to help hold it. And for the Mi-8, check the description for how to convert the table numbers to the PKV site for the Mi-8. So let's do it. I set my radar altitude alarm to 150 meters so that I can stay at the perfect height without needing to look down so much. I look at ground speed and pick my appropriate pipper depression and set it. Check drift angle. You only need to correct it if it's 4 or higher. Then either move the pipper to the side the drift needle points or figure out the spot you need to aim for on the PKV site using mils. And then just before the pipper covers the target, and better to do this too early than too late, pitching up at about 1.4 to 1.5 G, looking from the pipper to the G meter, then look down to the attitude indicator and slow down when close to your loft angle so that you can be precise. This is easily the hardest part to get right. Use your standby attitude indicator to judge when you hit 20 degrees. It's a pity the main one has no 20-degree reference. And then turn away to watch the fireworks. Now that's it for loft bombing. Adjust anything as needed so it works for you. Now, there is one other way to loft bomb. Have fun, and many happy boots.